Let's move on to main topic number 3, shall we? And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Cosino, who writes, The Hollywood Reporter says that Amazon is spending somewhere between $464 to $600 million for the first season of Lord of the Rings alone. Part of that is the cost of the rights. Well, maybe, we'll get to that in a second. With Game of Thrones as an example, they could be spending as much as $1 billion by season 5. How can Amazon possibly recoup this cost? I doubt Lord of the Rings can generate that much income through increased subscriptions or even merchandising. Is this simply for the perceived marquee value, or do you think Amazon has to do Lord of the Rings feature films with theatrical releases to turn a profit? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Eric. And of course, one of the, if not the, most important and exciting to me upcoming streaming series is Amazon's Lord of the Rings. I'm more excited for it than I was for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I am more excited for it than I am for, Mandalorian season 3. I'm more excited for this than just about anything. Lord of the Rings going there. Not to mention, a while back they put out that behind the scenes video showing all the behind the camera talent that they've got lined up working on this show, which to me was remarkable. And now we find out just how deadly serious Amazon is taking it. This is going to be the most expensive show in history by 2 or 3 times. Like, not eking out becoming the most expensive show in history. It's like lapping other shows to become the most expensive show in history. This comes to us from the folks over at Hollywood Reporter who write, what I can tell you is that Amazon is going to spend about $650 million. Now, this is coming from Stuart Nash, the New Zealand Minister of Economic Development. What I can tell you is that Amazon is going to spend about $650 million, that's $465 million US, in season 1 alone. Stuart Nash, New Zealand Minister of Economic Development and Tourism, told the Morning Report. This will be the largest television series ever made. By comparison, HBO's Game of Thrones cost roughly $100 million to produce per season. The eye-popping Lord of the Rings price tag almost certainly doesn't reflect season 1's production costs alone. The rights to the Tolkien property cost an estimated $250 million. So, now Hollywood Reporter goes on to say that 465 could be larger than that. Maybe yes, maybe no. But here's the bottom line. This show is expensive. This show is expensive as hell. Game of Thrones clocking in at about $100 million a season, even if, and there's no confirmation here, but even if that $465 million for season 1 includes the base rights cost of $250 million, you're still talking about one season is going to cost anywhere in the neighborhoods of $210 to $240 million, up to $300 million for one season. That is a per episode cost that triples its closest rival. That is insane. That is insane kind of money. So, going back to the question that our viewer initially posed is, what's the strategy here? How on earth can Amazon even remotely hope to make that kind of money on a streaming service? Do they really think they're going to get that many new people signing up for this one show? And the answer to that is no, they don't. They know, Amazon knows that they're not going to recoup all their money on this show. They know that. So the question becomes, then why do it? And the answer is this. It is like the viewer wrote in. It's the marquee value. It is almost, they're almost going to be looking at doing this Amazon series as a marketing budget, right? We make this to plant our flag and say, we are the game in town. You can keep talking about Netflix. You can keep talking about Disney Plus, but we are planting our flag and saying, we're the guys to beat. Now, they may be completely wrong about that, but that is what they're doing. They're saying, you're going to pay attention to us. This is a prestige move, so that not only do you look at Lord of the Rings, but that they'll get everybody to take a much closer look at Amazon Prime. Now, listen, Rob, I've thought for a while that they should change the name of their streaming service. Like, I get it. It is a benefit of being an Amazon Prime member, but Amazon Prime means so much. It can mean getting free downloadable content for your mobile games. It can mean your free shipping you get when you order items off Amazon. It can mean your streaming service. I've almost felt like for a while they should specifically give a name to their video content streaming service so people understand a little bit. I think this whole move and why they spend all this money is simply to make themselves a player, and they believe there are going to be long-term benefits by saying we have the marquee streaming show in the world, and we're not sparing any expense to do it. Now, whether this strategy works or doesn't work, time will tell. Maybe this will be an elaborate, burning of money and a complete loss. But their strategy going in is, this is about establishing our brand. This is about establishing our identity. This is about staking a claim saying we are the guys to beat. And on that level, I can see spending that much money to do it. This is going to be the marquee show. So anyway, Rob, you're seeing these numbers. These are ridiculous, astronomical numbers. What do you think? Is this a show that's well worth it? Where's your excitement level right now for Lord of the Rings? How do you see this playing out?
Look, as you know, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. It was a part of my life for a long time. And I think it's great that they're doing a show about the Second Age. Delving into the whole history of Middle-earth and as documented in things like the Silmarillion. But John, the business of movies and television, it hasn't changed that much since the dawn of cinema. Movies and TV are still made the same way. The amount of money that they're spending on this show exceeds that with this production budget of all 3 Lord of the Rings movies put together. And this is only for the first season. And I wonder, where does this money going? Are they hiring a cast of thousands to play extras? They can just use the massive software they created, 20 years ago. I just wonder, is this smart? And look, lots of any science fiction, fantasy, or even a horror show that takes place in different places, like Star Trek in the 23rd century, or in the future, or even in the distant past, like Game of Thrones, you might be able to go shoot in Dubrovnik or someplace that has ancient cities, but a lot of it has to be built, fabricated from scratch. And there's a big expense up front on many, many kinds of shows like that. Like on Star Trek, you have to build the bridge, you have to build the corridors, you have to build the phasers. Everything has to be built from scratch. But this, you're making it New Zealand, you're making it Middle-earth already. I just don't understand where all the money is going. Why is this show so expensive? It's not like your cast is full of Oscar winners. So where's the money going? And I'm not saying that there's any impropriety here. I just wonder, no matter how much money you're spending, how do you end up spending this much money on a per episode basis? This is far and away the most expensive television show ever made, by not just a little bit, by an extraordinary amount. And I'd love to see, how is this done? I hope we get the definitive making of book, because man, with the rights alone, God, you're pushing $1 billion. That's a lot of money.
When you think about it though, let's say it cracks down to being $300 million on production, that they're spending $300 million on production for this season. That is still a big number. But when you compare it to, say, it's basically the cost of a really huge, big blockbuster movie, right? So,
yeah.
So what they're saying is, we are putting in enough money to be amongst the most expensive big blockbuster movies of all time, but it's going to be an 8-episode season. It's going to be 8 hours instead of 2 hours and 45 minutes. On that level, when you think of it in those terms, if we can see where the money goes to in Avengers Endgame, then we can start to imagine what they may be putting into in an even longer, by double the length of time at least.
Yes.
Thing. But it also means, look, even in Falcon and Winter Soldier, because Rob, you and I gushed about like that episode 1, that aerial combat action sequence. It looked very cinema-esque.
Yep.
But as we watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, as much as I'm enjoying it, it certainly does most of the time. You can feel the production value difference between an episode of television versus what we would become accustomed to seeing in the theaters for a theatrical experience. To me, this says every second of frame shooting in this Lord of the Rings show is going to be purely done in an absolute big blockbuster cinematic way.
Yeah.
And again, is that a good idea or a bad idea? We won't know until later. But
the difference is those cinematic movies, John, we're going to recoup. Endgame made $3 billion at the box office, recouping its production costs. This has no chance of that because it's not going to be a theatrical release. Now, Amazon certainly has the money, but my whole thing is, I don't know what kind of precedent. We've seen some big deals, Netflix deals for the Knives Out sequels, and then this kind of deal, the kind of money that I just hope that the industry doesn't, I hope this doesn't become an expectation of shows, that look, everyone, great that they're spending this much money, but is it sustainable?
You know what it is? Here's the analogy. It's an arms race.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
These networks are literally, they're in an arms race right now. And they are going, if it continues like this unchecked, they're all going to bankrupt themselves at some point. But you're right. The Knives Out deal is an excellent comparison to bring in here. They just dropped $450 million, not even for the production. I mean, the $450 million for the rights for 2 movies. And Amazon is spending like the range of $600 million for a season of television. It's huge.
But the question too is, it's still the same amount of time, whether it's an hour or 2 hours. I've been watching this new series on Amazon called Them. It's a horror series. And I am very impressed with both the technical prowess of the production design. It's set in the 50s. It's about a black family that migrates from North Carolina to Compton. And I've never seen a TV show that instills a sense of dread in me like this one does. As far as televised horror goes, it's great. Now, it did not cost anywhere near on an hour per hour basis. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about the entertainment that is delivered to the audience. And does lots of money translate to great entertainment? And it comes down to the fact that, do you need to spend this much money to make a Lord of the Rings show? Does it have to be this expensive to give an audience? Is it this for every hour of entertainment they're getting? Are you getting more entertainment than, say, a show like Them, which costs substantially less? I mean, that's what I always wonder. Like, what is the value of an hour of an audience's time? And if you're watching a show that costs $1 million or a show that costs $50 million per hour, and they're both equally entertaining, what does that say?
I guess it's all about what kind of story do they want to tell. I mean, if the stories they want to tell are going to be these huge, sweeping, armies of orcs and goblins and, I mean, who knows? But it makes the imagination run wild. It does make the imagination run wild. And I am very, very curious to see. I mean, look, guys, clearly, Amazon is dead ass serious about Lord of the Rings, their show. They are going all in on this thing, and it's already my most exciting. I am the most excited for this streaming series and for any other. Doesn't mean it's going to equate to quality. That's what it comes down to. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this news? This is going to be by far the most expensive television series in history. Does this just show that Amazon doesn't know how to handle money properly? Does it show they are so dead serious about this? They are looking for more benefits than just the immediate amount of eyeballs that watch it at first. How do you guys see this? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.